Welcome to Skills to Pay the Bills and our special segment Strategic Talks Roundtable Series. Today we are going to demystify incorrect stories about global exporting for women, veterans, and minorities. Our two panelists have been on our show before at separate times, and we are delighted to have them return to talk about the concept of exporting. We also welcome to the show our small business focus group. Our first panelist is the president and CEO of AMSCO Global, which stands for American Merchandise Supply Company. He launched his export business in 2011, exporting major American brands all over the world. AMSCO was also the recipient of the Small Business Exporter of the Year Award in 2013 from the U.S. Small Business Administration. Our next distinguished panelist is from the Small Business Administration, serving as Regional Manager, Office of International Trade, Export Solutions Group, Mid-Atlantic Region, and Export Assistance Center. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to our show Mr. Vinson Palathingal, Mr. William Bill Houck, and our small business focus group to Strategic Talks. Welcome to everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Well, between you two guys, I have probably 100 questions, so we better get started.
Sure, thank you.
I'm going to start with Vinson. What brought you into the exporting business?
I have an IT business that I have from late 90s that I'm operating with, and I used to travel to the Middle East where many of my friends are working, who were, my classmates, graduated from the same college in India. So they used to ask to source the material from US, and I started doing it as part of the same business that I had. Mm-hmm. But when I knew that it's completely a different segment, entirely exporting itself, we thought it will be better for us to launch a separate entity in 2011. That is when we started the AMSCO Global export business.
So you're fairly new.
As far as export goes, yes.
Right, and then a couple of years later, you get the small business exporting year.
Yes, that was really nice. Yes,
that's impressive.
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
Sure. Yeah.
So now, Bill, we're going to go to you. Now, you have the longest title, I think, of anybody I know. You do a lot. Tell us about yourself and about those titles.
Originally, I was a international trade specialist, and then I became responsible for 5 different states. So Virginia, DC, West Virginia, Maryland, and Delaware. And primarily my responsibility is to work with companies and banks in educating about our 3 export loan guarantee programs, showing them how they can use capital to expand their export business. So much of what I do is education, outreach, making people and banks aware of our programs, coaching them along the way to getting a line of credit to support their export business. And then I also coach on Ex-Im Bank products and other U.S. government agency export promotion programs.
Mm-hmm. So does this mean that are you traveling a lot? I'm sure you travel a lot domestically, but what about internationally? Are you
occasionally. I'm out with the U.S. Export Assistance Center in Arlington. We're at 1501 Wilson Boulevard on the 12th floor. That is made up of the U.S. Commercial Service, SBA, and the Export-Import Bank of the United States. Okay. Working with the U.S. Commercial Service, they have a program over the last few years called Trade Winds. So 3 years ago, their Trade Winds trade show was in Singapore. So I was in Singapore to help educate companies on using working capital to finance their transactions that might come about while they're over there. And then in 2 weeks, I'll be in Germany at the Hanover Messe Automation Show for 5 days. Educating companies on how they can negotiate with their foreign customers in building trade finance and working capital into those transactions.
Wow, you do a lot.
And then I have the 5 states I cover as well.
Okay, all right, good. Now, Vinson, what has been your experience so far as, dealing with the different cultures in your line of work?
It's challenging. I happen to come from that part of the world. When I came to US for my master's, I was 25. So basically, I understand that culture, but at the same time, I have been here long enough to start believing the systems where, you sign a contract and you have this credit lines that you make available to people. But there, you have to notice that the people are coming from all parts of the world as expats to the Middle East region. That's where most of my exports are going to UAE, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, that kind of countries. So we have to make sure that we are securing our sales.
Have you had any challenges?
Yeah, we have had challenges. We definitely have had challenges, and we are working. Understanding how to do business there, and that is actually the challenge that will face an American business when they are trying to export to that part of the world, because we had to know how to deal with them, and that personal nature of things. They believe more in shake hands and seeing people face to face rather than signing the contracts, and we do a lot of business here on the IT side without even seeing the person. It's all contracts, we sign it and it has its legal values. But sometimes in the Middle East, you have to really know the person, at a personal level. So there is definitely challenges. There are challenges, but we are managing it properly.
Right.
And that's part of my job, is to help them address those challenges.
Okay.
Risk mitigation for doing business overseas, working capital challenges. Through the U.S. Commercial Service, they can work with his company to check out the background of a potential buyer, follow up on late payments. So that's why we exist, is to help them mitigate and get over those challenges that they may face from day to day. So.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, the question that I have for you, Bill, is just recently, I always thought of exporting as like a business. And just recently I learned that it's not really a business, it's more like a concept. Exporting, that's what someone just recently told me.
I'd like to talk to that person.
They told me they were pretty high up. They were pretty high up, and they said, it's really not. So tell us what exporting goods and services. What is that? Define that for me.
Conceptually, I guess, if you look at it from a concept, most companies are servicing customers here in the United States. So they are doing business every day, filling orders for goods or services. But at some point, they have to, and I'm sure you would agree, at some point you have to look at different areas for growth. Okay. Today, companies have a very tight niche in what they provide. They don't provide everything to everybody, and so they may find at some point that their domestic market is becoming mature. When in their first 5 to 10 years of being in business, they may have experienced 2, 5, 10% revenue growth, but as the time goes on, that revenue growth starts to fade. So conceptually, they have to start thinking outside the box or outside U.S. borders for growth. The common term is 95% of business and regular retail consumers are outside the United States. Okay. So conceptually, it makes sense to look over outside the United States to maintain that growth. But you've got to have a business. Exporting is a different dimension of a business. Okay. You've got to have management buy-in. You've got to make sure that you can perform at the same capacity internationally as you do domestically as far as servicing your product or your service. So there's a lot of concepts, and I think we were going to show people that 9-question export assessment. They really need to score highly on that assessment to make their business successful in exporting. So conceptually, it's all about doing that 5-year plan. Where am I going to get my growth? And then you've got to build that business plan, that business part of exporting, to be successful. Okay,
and I think we will come back to that 9-point plan because I found that very interesting. But I want to ask Vincent a question about the support that you got when you first started in the exporting business, and the kind of support that you have continually gotten from SBA.
Absolutely, yes. We have, after we started the business, then we initially, as any business, we are looking at your own money personally to finance these things. And when the purchases keep increasing, we need to have access to capital. And that is where, I have worked with the SBAs, one of the SBAs partnering banks, to get a credit line initially, to get going. When more inquiries come, we had to service more requests, and we need more money. So definitely that cannot all come from personal finances. So this we worked with Fulton Bank initially to have a credit line established. And then that grew, and then other banks were opening up, and they came and they opened much more generous credit lines for us. But initially it was SBA's partnering opportunity that came through Fulton Bank that gave us the access to the money.
So it's as simple as walking into the door or picking up a phone to make a call to SBA to get the help.
Definitely, to get started, yes, absolutely.
Started.
That is easy as that. But then you had to have your act in place in terms of your finances, your creditworthiness, and all of that.
Right.
But at the same time, it was a relatively easy process,
It was an easy
much lesser
process.
than
You want to talk a little bit about that AA program, because I think if we're going to talk about
Right.
women, minorities, and veterans,
Mhm.
the AA program, you took advantage of that for your IT business.
Yeah,
correct?
I have, I have an IT business, as I told you. I became an 8A company
Right.
after.
Well, you want to tell them what that is real quickly?
Yeah, 8A is based on different disadvantages people have when they start businesses. That you can certify yourself as a SBA 8A company based on the difficulties that you have facing as a business to grow, and then you can get contracts below a certain amount set aside for your business and without too much of a competition from big businesses.
Okay.
So that's an 8A program, and it was a services company the IT services company that I had.
Okay.
I have used up, you can have an 8A status only for like 9 years. So I was an 8A on that company that stops me from going for an 8A for the export
Right,
business.
right.
But that is a very good program if you have a business that is running and you really know the ins and outs of that particular business, then getting an advantage, doing business with the government. 8A is an excellent opportunity for minorities and women.
We're going to come back and address that a little bit more. It is time to take a short break, but we'll be right back with our special guests, Bill Houck and Vinson Palathingal, and our small business focus group. So don't touch that. Welcome back. Prior to the break, we were discussing, talking to Vincent about the 8A program that he was a part of. And so we want to continue with that. And I also want to ask you one question. When you were talking about the counseling that you were getting from SBA when you first started, I know many people are going to like business strategists and different consultants, and they're paying gobs of money to get this information. My question to you is, how much did you have to pay SBA to get this counseling?
Oh, nothing. Absolutely, it was all available for any small business that is trying to grow their business.
So it was free?
It was free.
There was no charge?
No,
for
there was
that.
no charge.
Your US tax dollars.
Yeah, exactly, absolutely.
Because I brought that out because many small businesses feel that they cannot go to SBA, that there's going to be a charge. They're totally terrified to come and take advantage of this, and it sounds to me like it's just a simple telephone call or just to go to the office
Website,
and
yes.
talk to somebody on the website, which you're going to get into that a little bit
Yeah.
later. So I wanted you to finish your point about the SBA.
The 8A
assistance
program,
and that.
my advice to anybody who wanted to be on the program is to clearly have some business going, and before you get on the program. When you start a business, you think everything is going to come easily, and that is me also when I started the IT business. And I thought, as far as I have the 8A program, contracts are going to keep coming,
Right.
without really having to do too much of that work, which was not true. You have to do your part. SBA 8A program gives you an advantage when you're competing with big companies, but you have to still market. You have to be available, in the trade shows, and you have to go meet with the client and seek the work. So you have to be in a situation where you're ready to do business with a client, and then SBA 8A program comes in as a tool to give you an advantage in winning that contract.
Okay, very good. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a group here that has been very, very patient waiting, and I want to introduce you to our focus group. A little later on, they're going to be asking questions of our elite panel here. So let's start with Dave. Just if you would just tell who you are, what you do.
My name's Dave Burks, and we work with First Financial Security, and we do index products and insurance.
Very good.
So, Donna Burks, and the other part of what David didn't mention is we also have other business lines as well. So we have our own corporation, and we have business centers and et cetera.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm Maryam Masumi. I'm starting my own business, so I'm just searching about what I have to start and how I can do it with their help.
Okay, I'm Mehdi Zare from Effective Work Group. We are an international online marketing agency headquartered in Germany, and I started the US branch in January.
Very good. Thank you so much, and thank you for your patience. We haven't forgotten about you. We'll be back. I want to ask Bill if he would talk a little bit about this famous website. It is exhaustive. I've been on it, and sometimes I can navigate well, and sometimes it's just so much there. It just blows my mind, the information that is contained in this website. And so I want you to talk a little bit about that, and also about that 9-point questionnaire, because I think that's important.
And I don't know if we're able to show that questionnaire, but I can point people in the right direction.
Okay.
But if people can see it who are viewing the program, it's SBA.gov. It's designed to take a company from concept point all the way to 10 years into the age of their business and financing growth. I think for everybody in the room and watching, I think particularly where Vinson started is the local resources. Talking about free resources, you have you have SCORE, which is a volunteer service in each district office, where you have 1 or 2 or 3 individuals that become your specialized mentor. You've got the small business development centers. That's where you can help. You'll start with SCORE and maybe outlining the business plan. They may even actually help you write the business plan. But the Small Business Development Center will help you write that business plan, get your business license in place. Specific to women's businesses, we have the women business councils that are in every region of a state. We've got the export assistance centers. So the veteran business outreach centers. Really, the scope of this program can be covered by our website. So you've got the 8A program, which is for disadvantaged businesses. You've got the Women's Business Council for the women that are looking to start their own business or grow their business, looking for new opportunities. And then for veterans that are now entering into a different phase of their life, they can go to the Veterans Outreach Center to look at ways they can start a business. So really, although there's a ton of information, it's pretty well focused into several of those tabs. And then you can go to finding loans and grants, and again, essentially all the starting a business. It's all pretty self-explanatory, but you can spend a good part of a month just using this program to get your business started.
Right. Now you mentioned about the loans and grants. Are there loans and grants available for people that are considering going into the exporting business?
Yes, we have 3 loan guarantees, and people need to understand these are loan guarantees. SBA a long time ago realized that they were not the best direct lenders in the world. So for years now, we've provided a 75% guarantee for businesses to get bank loans. So
how does that work?
Well, just like you would with any other bank loan, meaning you speak to your bank. Most banks, any bank that you look around in this area is probably an SBA lender to some extent, and so they're familiar with the SBA programs. So you walk into them, and they're going to require the same information under an SBA loan as they would a conventional loan. So they're going to need at least 2 or 3 years of financial statements. They're going to need 2 or 3 years of tax returns on the business. They're going to need a personal guarantee, personal financial statements on the. So our requirements are no different than a standard line of credit. So it's pretty straightforward. We've actually got this new link and I don't know if it usually pops up, but we have the SBA link now to where you can click on that. You can fill out a bunch of questions. It's much like Lending Tree. You fill out several questions, and within a matter of a few days, you'll have banks calling your business to see about lending you money.
So, and Vincent, hop in on this. It sounds like your business has to be viable. It's maybe not for a startup, somebody who's just getting started, because they may not have 3 years of, tax reports, and they may not have all that. So, is there something in between or gap or something that a startup could use?
I haven't used any of the startup programs, but
it's called Friends, Family, and Fools.
There is yeah, but once you are ready for a loan from a bank, the SBA program makes it more accessible, more available. The limit can be higher. I mean, because SBA guarantees 75%, up to 90% in some programs. So the bank is taking lesser risk. So the bank will be more open to giving you the money.
Because SBA
is taking the risk.
They've taken the risk, and then they've also taken the time to help you be prepared to submit a package to the bank. Is that
that's part of my job.
Right,
Yep.
that's what you do. Okay.
No, startup. So you're looking to start a business. So let's say you're coming out of the IT sector. You've built up some capital. Maybe you cashed in some stock options. You're ready to go out on your own. So you've got 10, 15, 20 years of experience. You've got a nice chunk of change that you can capitalize the business. So talking about the startup phase, there are lenders out there with an SBA guarantee that can consider a startup as long as you've got, let's say, very well, you're experienced, you have a strong business plan, and the initial balance sheet is well capitalized. Then an SBA guarantee may come into play. But typically they're going to require a company to be 12 months or older in business, because they want to see that first year of performance.
Okay. Guys, any questions so far? Anybody?
I want to ask you about the leads that you find in other countries. I think it's a tough job to find leads in other countries and qualify them. Can you explain how you find the leads? And
basically, I would say it's all networking. You go for different events there, trade shows, and you meet people. I happen to have advantage with a lot of friends and relatives being in that part of the world, the Middle East, where I mostly export to. But otherwise, there are events like what he was telling in Germany. There is an event that I go to regularly in Abu Dhabi. It's an oil and gas exhibition. I think thousands of people come there, different companies. So you walk around with your brochure, you meet with people, and some of them are really looking for a partner in the US, to source their products, because they are now going through different layers and they're spending a lot more money. And so if you can buy something from US and export it to them, they are more than happy to work with you. But again, you have to make sure that their creditworthiness and all that, when you give credit to these companies. So I would say it's mostly networking and going there, meeting with people, and that's the way to go. As far as exporting to a country, you should know what they need from them firsthand.
And as part of the Export Assistance Center, the U.S. Commercial Service, that's their job, is to find opportunities. So if you are an established business, you've got a clear executive summary that you can share with them, they can work with you to find opportunities in 85 different countries. So they'll hear about your business. Then what they'll do is through the years of experience they have, they can identify 2 or 3 different countries. They'll put you in touch with the embassies in those countries. They'll have the same kind of conversation with you, let's say in Bogota, and they'll say, yes, based on your good or service, we see some applications in this country, and they'll start setting up meetings for you. And they'll qualify those. So some of those are fee for service, but the initial consultation is free. So you've got the U.S. government that can reach out to 85 plus countries around the world to find you opportunities. And that's through the U.S. Export Assistance Center. And I put it up here for the Virginia one, where I work out of. And you've got specialists that cover almost every industry you can think of.
Very good. Now, I'm hearing you say a couple of things, and it's business plan and executive summary. My question is, how important is having a strong business plan and executive summary?
You're not going to get anywhere without a good business plan. It doesn't have to be 100 pages. From an export side, SBA does have an export business planner. It's a fillable PDF. It's a great resource to build your export business plan. But getting a business started, you need to have a business plan. You need to have a well-defined, measurable business plan.
Okay.
The executive summary is critical so that people have a clear understanding of what your capabilities are.
Okay.
But that's going to follow after you get the business plan in place.
Okay, very good. I want to take this time to thank Vinson and Bill for sharing such valuable information with us, and a very special thanks to our small business focus group for their insight and such good questions. I now have a much better understanding of the exporting concept. If you want to discuss the subject of exporting with either of our panelists, their information is scrolling on your television screen right now. Have a wonderful day, and we will meet you here next week for another segment of Skills to Pay the Bills.